One of the most difficult questions in IELTS speaking right now is an interesting conversation with a very old person. So in this video, we're going to look at that question. I'll give you 8 great phrases to use in your answer, and I'll show you a Band 9 answer for an interesting conversation with an old person. So let's get started. I'm Francis from Last Minute English, and on this channel we help you get great scores in your English exams like IELTS and Duolingo, and we help you reach advanced level English. So if that sounds good, make sure you subscribe. So today's question, describe an interesting conversation with a very old person. So first of all, we're going to look at the 8 phrases, and each phrase is something that you can add your own few details to and then learn that directly and put it into your own answer. So the first one is, the conversation I had with a very old person was with, and then you add your own details, you add the person. So you could say, was with my great uncle, was with my grandma, was with a very old neighbor. Then sentence 2, this happened around the year, and then you say the year. This happened around the year 2012. This happened around the year 2005. And if you want to be more specific, you can use phrase number 3. I think the conversation took place, and then you can say a specific time or a place. You could say, I think the conversation took place around Spring Festival time. Or, I think the conversation took place at my grandma's house. Then we move on to what you were talking about. So we've got a nice long phrase here. So, in terms of what we talked about, the main thing we discussed was, and then you say what it was. The main thing we discussed was her story of her life, or the main thing we discussed was the weather. So that's how you introduce the general topic. And if you want to say about a detail in that conversation, you can say, I remember she mentioned something about, and then the specific detail. For example, I remember she mentioned something about how her own grandfather had been a soldier in the war. Now, one of the things you might talk about with an old person is the differences in, like, when they were young and what happens today. And we've got a great phrase for that as well. So you can introduce the thing that you want to talk about, and then you say, that's certainly a different approach to the way something happens today. For example, that's certainly a different approach to the way people educate their children today, or the way people spend their free time today. Now, if this is an old person that's still active, then you can talk about their latest exploits. Exploits is a word that when we hear exploits, we think like someone, a fighter pilot flying their plane and like shooting at other people and flying the plane like this. That's the feeling of exploits. So it's like amazing things that they've done. And we can use it in kind of a joking way. For example, in my answer, I'll say my grandma's latest exploits at the bridge table. Bridge is a card game. So it's kind of funny to compare the word exploits with my grandma sitting playing cards with people. So the whole sentence, she also told me about her latest exploits at, and then you say like the place or the situation that the person's in. So at the bridge table. And finally, a conclusion sentence. So I always enjoyed talking to the person because he or she had so much life experience and she told great stories. And that's just a nice way to conclude that answer. So those are the 8 phrases. You can find them down here under the video. Just remember to add your own details and to check the grammar when you add those details so the whole sentence makes sense. So now let's take a look at a full Band 9 answer. This is one that I wrote, and you'll see all 8 of these phrases all through, like as the skeleton of this answer. So we're going to read through part by part. So let's go. So the conversation I had with a very old person was with my grandma. This happened around the year 2012, which was the year in which she was celebrating her 100th birthday. She was born in the year 1912, the same year the Titanic sailed. And I think the conversation took place just before her 100th birthday party. So in that paragraph, we are using the past tense because it's a conversation in the past, and we've used 3 of those expressions already. So we're using those sentences to make our answer nice and fluent with good grammar. Then the next paragraph. In terms of what we talked about, there wasn't a single train of conversation that I could point to. A train of conversation means like the way that the conversation goes. Instead, it was, like most conversations with the people you know well, a hodgepodge of different points and recollections about different topics. And a hodgepodge here is like a mix of lots of different things that are all different from each other. Then the next part. I remember she mentioned something about having been a keen tennis player when she was growing up, and that her parents had trusted her to venture out by herself and cycle the 10 miles to the tennis courts. That's certainly a different approach to the way parents in the UK raise their kids today. They can be a bit overprotective at times. So a couple more of those phrases there. So we're talking about something that, in this case, my grandma used to do, and we're making a comparison to the way that it happens today. And we're using those 2 phrases. Then the next part. She also told me all about her latest exploits at the bridge table. She loved playing all kinds of card games, but bridge was her favorite, and she got quite competitive at it. So again, we're taking that phrase, we're adding the detail about the bridge table, and this helps us to paint a picture of what this old person was like what were the details of their personality. And the more details you can put in, particularly interesting details, the better your answer will be. The more the examiner will enjoy listening to it, and the higher chance you have of getting a good score. Then, the last part. I always enjoyed talking to my grandma because she had so much life experience and she told great stories. She was quite the raconteur. And the fact that she was so much older than me meant that her perspective on things was quite unique. So her perspective means her view, her opinion on things. And quite the raconteur. A raconteur is someone who tells stories well. So it means a good storyteller. That's a nice extra piece of vocabulary for you to put in. So there you go. That is the full answer. A Band 9 answer using those 8 really useful phrases. If you found this video useful, if you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. And you can also tell me in the comments which other IELTS speaking topics you want to learn about and what other types of videos you'd like me to make as well. I'm Francis from Last Minute English. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck in your IELTS exam, and I'll see you next time.